Well, good morning. Hopefully I didn't wait too long and the wind's too bad, but I'm here this morning to reveal my 10 millimeter. I gave you a hint yesterday. I don't know if anybody caught it. And I, of course, like everything, got a little story. You know, here lately I've been talking about 50 JDJ that took a hard left turn and became 454 Casull, and other projects that kind of got thrown out and whatnot. And I also talked about the end issue. I want this, and I want that, and I want whatever. And I was trying to narrow that down from 3 to 2. Now, originally, when I started this 10 millimeter quest, one, never once intended it ever to be a grizzly gun. I just wanted to be able to shoot standard 180 to 200 grain jacketed soft points if I could find them, or to jacketed hollow points. But the Grizzly 10 millimeter fanboys have gotten so carried away that it seems like it has become the holy grail of Grizz defense. Crazy. I don't hate 10 millimeter. I can't say there's such a thing as a cartridge I hate, but there's cartridges I love and will not address them into things that they're just not up to. Case in point, I love the 222 Remington. For me, in my experience, that little cartridge is probably the most accurate cartridge, centerfire cartridge I've ever shot. And it has actually killed some big game. But in no way or in shape or form would I tell anybody that that's the holy grail of buck mule deer or bull elk killing cartridge. And that's the lifting that they've done, in my mind, of this 10 millimeter. Now, don't get me wrong, I've went out in the woods with a lot less energy delivery in grizzly bear country. I was young and thought I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. But nonetheless, I got past that. Enough said. Now, originally when I was going after a 10 millimeter, I had made up my mind that I was going for the Rock Island Armory bull barrel 5-inch. Never had a 1911 in my life that had adjustable sights on it, and this one came with these came with adjustable sights for a very reasonable price. And most of the reviews on it was pretty positive. Well, then again, you come across these 10 millimeter Grizz people, and they seem to love to tell you how good the gun is while they're doing a video showing how much it dysfunctions trying to push it that way. So I went and I started looking at other 1911s, trying to find something within a particular brand name format that worked flawlessly with these loads. And quite frankly, I went from that to even my tits ass, which I've introduced to you before. That thing runs pretty dang good. But the reason a 1911 works well is because we already know there's certain ammos it don't like. So we go out of our way to avoid those. Closer to the original design type bullets, you know, etc. And then I got in my head, well, maybe I should go a 6-inch 1911, and I went all over the circle. And then it got in my head, well, can I turn 10 millimeter into a legitimate Grizz platform? Let's push the limit on something that we could get there. Now, to do that, I didn't make a hard left turn. I did a hairpin turn on the side of a mountain and went completely backwards, in part because of Jeff, the late Jeff. I right now can't think of his last name, but he's from Gun Blast, whatever the heck it was that he did on YouTube. His brother's carrying it on. But he started shooting Rugers and Smith & Wesson 610s and whatnot. And when it came to the Ruger, he was claiming he was getting 100 to 120 extra feet per second. And I don't know if that's true. We'll see. But I seriously considered the Smith & Wesson 610, and it actually had some issues. Its particular issue had to do with its moon clip and it bending up enough to stop up the revolver. Supposedly they fixed that issue. But this one here, I never once saw any issue. And when I talk about this particular revolver, I'm going to sidetrack one more time because I did consider a single action, I believe they're Ubertis, Cimarron, single action. Right now I've lost the name, and that's okay. Doesn't matter. They come with basically a Colt replica frame with a hexagon barrel for an entire 8 inches and single action with adjustable front and rear sights. Ultimately, I decided against that because technically that's fail proof, yet totally reliant on head spacing on the rim, and I don't know as I wanted that. And the overall length of that cylinder, though positive compared to what I'm about to show you, doesn't also match the objective. So I got, for a song and dance, I practically stole this thing, but I present you with my new 10 millimeter. As you can tell, this is a Ruger Red Hawk. And again, I'm going to show you that it's empty. Now, this one, I did not see the issues with the moon clip being a problem. This one, I don't have them. This revolver, if you can tell, has been well used. And basically is a tank because it's still a Super Red Hawk. Look at all the meat to that. Cylinder, the whole 9 yards. Now, why would I do that? Well, one, it's perfectly capable of re-chambering up to 10 millimeter auto mag, but that in itself would be also defeating the purposes of eliminating an end by the time, because I no longer feel confident with my visions of doing the work, having somebody rechamber this. However, if you look at the dimensions of, and I'm going to, as usual, try to keep this where I can actually kind of see what I'm doing. But When you look at the dimension difference between the 10 millimeter auto and the auto mag, you're talking a 1.260 overall length for the 10 millimeter auto. For the auto mag of 1.555, which this leads into a basically 0.295 difference in length. Well, I believe I can do that by utilizing something that I've done a long time in my day, and that is taking advantage in my single shots, and to a certain extent bolt actions as well, but taking advantage of what's called free bore. Now, if you don't understand what free bore is, it's also known as a lengthy throat to accept a longer bullet nowadays, but in the old days it was a way to increase ever so slightly, depending on how long your throat was or free bore was, increasing case volume. In this case, I got so much cylinder here that I can pop this thing open, put a standard length 10 mil in, and together we're going to try to get a measurement of how much room, because I mean it is amazing. I have 0.5775 hundredths of an inch between the chamber mouth or the end of the cylinder from the top of the existing semi-spec bullet. So technically I have more space than I would have bullet to seat out overall, because the overall length of most of the stuff that I'm looking at using as test models or test bullets will run around the 0.70 to 0.737475 area, which means if I want to keep enough bullet in the case to keep it steady and have something to crimp to, I would have to keep it under, I believe, under that 0.57 to at least 0.45. But nonetheless, I've increased my case capacity without going to the auto mag. Now, full disclosure, when I get done with this little example and test, my intention is fully to go back to standard 180 to 200 grain jacketed soft points and hollow points as my everyday carry, because I never intend to do that as a grizzly gun. This is an everyday packing around, hey, I need to go check cameras on a trail cam, or I'm going scouting, whatever. The biggest thing I run into here, and I think you've seen plenty of pictures of that, where I'm at currently is black bear. And I've had some pretty good sized black bear, but nonetheless, not the same animal. There's several ways I can go about this. One is I can go and order a custom mold to do some of the weights, because I want to try the 220 that's currently available and test current available Grizz loads in this to see how it compares to, say, a 5-inch 1911. But I also want to try a 230-ish and a 240-ish now grain bullet. A good solid wide nose is not going to kill me, so I'm looking at basically 75% nose diameter, if you understand what I'm saying. In other words, if I got a 40 caliber bullet running 29 to 30 caliber for a nose, like say on a Elmer Keith bullet, or a straight up squared flat nose. Again, I personally don't want to go, in this case scenario, wider than the 0.300 diameter. Keep it within 25% of the full diameter, thereabouts, give or take. But I would like to try either finding somebody that already has some and work out a deal to get some of them purchased, high-tech hard cast to try. I also want to try, because for some reason in Buffalo Boar's information, they have a 200 grain monolithic bullet that is obviously solid, but for whatever reason they load it down. Now it could be because the bore or the bullet diameter is snug enough that they start seeing pressure signs. I don't know what the issue is. Nonetheless, they've loaded it down and still have it in as their dangerous game load. The difference between success and failure in this experiment may seem extreme to you, but, and I have those numbers written down for you, but currently the 200 to 220 grain Grizz loads, factory ammo, are producing between 703 to 704 foot-pounds of energy. Now I know some prefer the Taylor's knockdown, so what I'm about to read to you from there will involve the Taylor's into the formula, but here's my goal, and if it's anything less than that, I am going to, and maybe I'm being too optimistic, could very well be, but anything less than 900 foot-pounds of energy, or therefore 200 foot-pounds extra in energy, I'm going to consider this project a failure. Why would I consider it a failure? Well, as it's been well illustrated many a times by many people, the 41 Remington mag will hit well over 1,100 foot-pounds of energy. And in my mind, that's unrealistic, no matter how tough this revolver is, to achieve that. I could be wrong, but I'm going to take that same rifle ammunition custom loaded to a particular gun method and slowly work up loads to see how well it does. Particular powders I will use doesn't need to be discussed at this point, but here's what I got. So if I use the same 220 grain bullets, it would take me up to 1,360 feet per second in velocity to reach 903 pounds of energy, which is a solid 200 pounds over factory, for a Taylor's knockdown of 17.09. If I go to the 230 to reach that same precipice of 903 pounds would require 1,330 feet per second, for a slight advantage in the Taylor's knockdown of 17.48. And then when it comes to the 240 grain that I'm looking to come up with, we are talking, somehow I managed to screw that up, but 1,300 feet per second, I believe, is what I didn't get written down here, for 901 foot-pounds of energy, for a Taylor's knockdown of 17.82. So even with my goal parameters, I am never going to reach, and I am not confident that I would ever reach anything much more beyond that. Everything's a test. But this is my initial response. I could be proven wrong in either way. I may never get to that high, and yet I may exceed my expectations. But the ultimate goal is to try to step it up to what I believe is a good improvement in that. Now, again, at this point, does this make this to me 100% a Grizz gun just in the theory alone? No, because despite the fact there is that element of what do I not know about that may fail on the trip. Two, I already well exceed this for Grizz country. Have many years. And to be honest with you, the idea of happening to push this into Grizz country may not even be realistic for me anymore. Because like I've said, I'm no longer in it. I want to get back to it. But with today's economy and going on, there's no guarantees. The third and final thing is the lack of confidence in even the diameter of the bullet, as opposed to what I already have available. Now, that may sound really weird, but to say it that way, because bullet diameter is not the give-all, beat-all of everything, because I've even proved it. Velocity is not even the get-all, beat-all. By today's parameters of testing, I can tell you specifically that I developed cap and ball bullets, and I seen my 165 grain 44 caliber cap and ball bullet reach a velocity of 1,000 feet per second and push completely through 32 inches of ballistics gel. When it got to the other end of it, you could see in slow motion it just kind of whoop, and barely leave afterwards. And then compare it to my 270 grain cap and ball bullet, which also hit that 1,000 feet per second and performed the exact same way. Now, what I'm kind of making reference to is bullet construction is everything, and sometimes velocity with certain constructions of bullet will work against you in penetration. So I don't know what I'm going to get with this. I have some ideas. I've already made this video way longer than I needed to or intended to, but I have some ideas how best I could potentially replicate bone, muscle, skin structure of buffalo, moose, Grizz size game. With that, you came here wearing your feelings on your sleeves, looking to get butt hurt, you might have come to the right place. Thank you.